right now talking about the blockchain solving problems, this time specifically in education, supply chain, and media sectors. I'm really pleased to invite to our stage our amazing panelists. So please give a big hand to Greg Hall, Head of Content for BSV Association. Head of Content of BSV Association. Greg is an experienced business journalist, currently serving as head of content. He has contributed to and edited for a number of international and national publications and has professional experience in the legal and business consulting sectors. Before joining Bitcoin Association, he served as an editor-in-chief of the Legal 50s GS magazine. Give him a big hand. Also, please again welcome on the stage Dr. Alessio Pagani, researcher and N-Chain, born a computer engineer and holds PhD in information technologies. I'm sure you're already really well acquainted with him, but also give him a big hand once again. Also, please welcome on the stage Salman Arain, co-founder of FindAche.com. Salman has 23 years of global experience as corporate executive, entrepreneur, advisor, CEO, and philanthropist as building organizations, high-performance teams, and leading digital strategy development and transformation programs at multi-million-dollar corporations. Please give him a big hand. Also, please give a big hand to Ahmed Hamdan, principal consultant at Decrypted Solutions. Ahmed Hamdan is an accomplished technology leader, experienced in leading teams to create intellectual property and forging alliances with tech titans to create financially viable solutions. Please give him a big hand. Also, welcome once again on this stage, Jad Wahab, tech lead and Chain, who has, as I mentioned earlier, building blockchain products at N-Chain and services such as Kensei and numerous blockchain infrastructure projects. Give him a big hand. And this panel discussion today will be moderated by a lovely lady. Please welcome on the stage Shihab Farouk Niazi, who is the founder and CEO of Trailblazer and has previously been a founder of Startup Guide magazine. She has a diverse background in digital and print publishing. As a business coach, trainer, and content strategist, Shihab believes in harnessing the power of the digital economy and helps small and medium businesses grow through online platforms. Please give her a big hand. Welcome on the stage.
Thank you, Maria. Hi, everyone. Thank you to all the panelists for joining. So before we kick off this discussion, and for everybody to get to know you a little bit better, especially for the people who've just joined, if you can introduce yourselves individually, just take a minute, and a little bit of your background, and then we can carry the conversation forward. So Jad, if you would like to start.
Right, thank you. Yeah, my name is Jad Wahab, and I'm a tech lead at N-Chain. And earlier today, I presented N-Chain's platform Kensei, which is an enterprise data integrity solution that helps companies leverage the power of the blockchain without dealing with a lot of the complexities and abstracting away a lot of the technicalities that happen under the hood. Yeah.
Ahmed.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Ahmed Hamdan. I'm a technology enthusiast, ex-Microsoft. I designed and built Microsoft Cloud Infrastructure. Prior to that, I was at Microsoft in the gaming space. Today, what I do is semi-retired. I enjoy coaching technology startups, primarily in the space of blockchain, artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity. Thank you.
All right. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. My name is Muhammad Salman Arain. Coming from a hospitality and media background, my last position was with the New York Times as a vice president of operations, taking care of the English Canada as well as the 30 other publications. I also worked for Intercontinental Hotels Group in US and Canada. Last 17 years I'm based in Saudi Arabia, and as a technology company we have been doing digitization and a lot of automation as well. And lately we have transformed a very traditional domain, that's the pilgrimage to Makkah and Medina, and we built a company called Fanatic.com. So, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Alessio Pagani. I am a researcher at Enchain with Jad. At Enchain, we help traditional businesses, entities, government to understand blockchain and use it to improve their business or to make it more efficient. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name's Greg Hall. I'm head of content for BSV Blockchains Association. As our MC said, I've got extensive experience in the legal and publishing sectors, and I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. So now to kick off this discussion, the first question is for all of you. We know that blockchain is usually associated with cryptocurrency, and especially in Pakistan. So in your respective areas of work, you must have come across a lot of different applications, right? And specifically, if we speak about the supply chain aspect and the media aspect, what are some of the interesting use cases that you have come across lately that you would like to share?
I can go first. So the blockchain is definitely a way to make the internet a lot more secure and robust. And you know, you mentioned media. So recently we've been hearing a lot about Web 3.0, and the way I like to think about it is with Web 1.0, you had the content and the platform was provided privately by the service provider. So something like a Wall Street Journal or like a news a company where they would provide the content online, and they had their own private platform. And then we moved on to Web 2.0, where the end users were the content creators, whereas the service provider still had a private platform. And there are still some issues with that because they are sort of siloed from different companies. So every single company has their own walled garden, and there's it's difficult to share a lot of that information. And then with Web 3.0, we can take things to the next level, where you can still have the content created by the users, whereas the platform can be a public platform like the blockchain. So if you put the data on the public platform in a specific interoperable way, the service providers would then, instead of owning the private platform where the data lives, they could aggregate that information off of the public platform, curate it, and then filter it for a specific audience. And that way you could share a lot of data across different companies, and it gets rid of the control that private companies had. And you hear a lot about Facebook and a lot of these social media companies where they take advantage of your data, and a lot of that causes a lot of issues that we see nowadays.
Great.
Adding on what you just said, right? Today, I mean, we evolving from Web 1.0 to 2.0 and now coming 3.0. What 3.0 is going to do is it's going to allow you to bring many things together. It's going to create data lakes that are government, private, public, mixed, hybrid data streams. What's important is blockchain is going to be able to say, hey, how do you validate that data, right? And then bring it together to say, hey, what's factual and what's not factual or fiction, and add credibility to the data that's available today, right? We can create data in terms of medical records, in terms of identity management, in terms of real estate ownership, right? But how do you differentiate between fact and fiction or false information? That's really important in the media today, right? And that's what Web 3.0 is going to bring credibility to the data that's available in the net tomorrow. Thank you.
All right, so I think very well said, both of you gentlemen, and I think I have more technical people sitting on this side of my right side. I come very, from a core business background, and when we look at the blockchain as a technology, we see it as a as a significant step in the right direction when you start doing the applications. As I just say right now, one of the startups that I'm involved with, we have started working on the very traditional industries, and that's where if you really look at before we do all the sophisticated stuff, I think there is a very basic layer of things that are not happening in the world right now. Just take an example of the pilgrimage and the people traveling around the world. 10 million people in 2019 was the last time the pilgrimage took place in Saudi Arabia. 10 million people traveled from outside Saudi Arabia. 22% of those pilgrims were from Pakistan. That's like a huge number. 1.6 million Pakistanis traveled. And where is that data? Where is the transparency? From where the money came from, where that money has been spent, how that money moved from this country to the cross borders, which vendors has provided what. So this is like, if you just take it as a very, very basic level from a supply chain point of view and from a transparency, and then bringing it some sort of like, a reward system for people who are basically part of that big economy, I think that's where the application is looking like. And I think I would be seeking more knowledge and expertise through this panel to understand how that can be solved better. And that's what we are committed with the technology, and that's what we are doing.
Maybe I can say a few words about the supply chain. So as Jad introduced you today, we have this platform called Kensei that allows to timestamp data and connect data. So if we have two pieces of data, they can be connected and provably connected, so you can always show which one was the first and which one was the second. And starting from this concept, you can create a lot of use cases in the supply chain. As an example, we have one of our clients is basically a fisher. So they fish the fish, sorry. And then they basically make the final product, so they clean it and do everything they need to do. And it's very important to know when it was fished, when it was delivered. And with the blockchain, we can do it in a transparent way. So you can always prove, because once you fish it, it's tracked, it's inserted in the blockchain, so you can never cheat and say, okay, this was from a week after. And this allows to have a transparent chain of events that shows you exactly when those actions happened. And more in general, you can think about any business case where you have some raw material, you have a supply chain, and you reach your final product. So, and everything is tracked. This is very useful, it's very powerful, because every player in the middle cannot lie at this point, because they have a proof from when they receive the material, and they have to prove when they deliver the material to the next step. So this is, I think, the first big advantage, and there is another one implied here, which is removing data silos. Because at the moment, each of these players has his data set, his database, sorry, with its own format, its own structure. Having this global ledger, public ledger, allows people to share all the data from the beginning to the end of the supply chain, removing data silos, making data interoperable, and allowing people to see what happens, and so also after that build more knowledge, for example, apply data science to improve the businesses. Thank you.
Well, I'll just bring us back to media for a moment. I mean, so much of what my fellow panelists have said is relevant to media. I mean, if you think of what you've heard today about the qualities and the benefits to be derived from blockchain technology, it's about increasing information and data integrity, and some of the use cases, some of the features of this, improved identity management. It's about removing this element of trust from so much of our lives. We shouldn't need to trust that our data is correct. We should just be able to simply know it. And I think when it comes to media, speaking to my experience as a journalist, I think increasing information integrity in society can only be a great thing for everybody, and that includes journalists, right? Because if you think, at the moment, journalists will report on a development. You can take a blockchain-based development, for instance, and they really have no way of knowing if what they're reporting is 100% accurate. Obviously, they have their sources or their relationships they're relying on to ensure that the information that they're being fed is correct. But I think in a world where we can remove that element of trust from information, I think that'll have kind of an ambient impact on the overall level of information in our society. And that should mean that the media that we all consume only increases in quality.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So many amazing, unlimited possibilities. So the next one is for you, Dr. Alessio and Jad. For a country like Pakistan, what do you think would it take to build products and solutions for blockchain, considering all the landscape and considering the challenges that we have, and specifically in the areas of supply chain and media?
Sure. I guess in terms of Pakistan right now, it's a stage around research to try to figure out what exactly is, what are the problems, what are the pinpoints that we need to, focus on, and definitely we need the help of a lot of locals here. I mean, for example, in the Middle East, something that is definitely can benefit from blockchain is, there's a lot of work that's done around credit, and there's a big issue with that because, if you want to do some work on credit, then you need to be sure that you can have some sort of legal recourse afterwards if, for example, your business partners or, decide not to pay or something afterwards. You need to be able to make, long-term relationships, and then if you've got data that you can rely on, it allows people to, have a lower time preference, be a lot more, future thinking, and be able to have long-term relationships. That's definitely a really good thing, especially now where humans are very consumerist and very short-term thinking, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And definitely one factor is the ability to trust on a lot of data and information, and the ability to create long-term relationships. So after a long time, many things change. A lot of data formats change. People forget. So having a technology that allows you to be, trust the data even after long periods of time is definitely something that can be revolutionary. Thanks.
Let me say, I agree with the senator before when he said that Pakistan, like other nations, need a national blockchain strategy, because that's the first step. We need to identify which are the challenges and which is the best approach to solve them, because it's a very complicated space. And in this sense, even choosing the right blockchain, choosing the right strategy is very difficult, and it needs a lot of effort and a lot of discussion, as Jack was saying. It's a long-term project trying to identify which are those challenges. And apart from that, I think there are two key points. One effort is from the Pakistani businesses, so media, supply chain, but also the others, and the other one is from our side. So I think Pakistani businesses need to ask themselves what they could improve and what they would like to improve, which new feature they would like to have, which are the problems they are currently facing. And this is very interesting and for us, because we can help you provide those solutions. And the second challenge, as I said, is on us, which is inform you, try to help you understand why blockchain is so useful, what can you do with it, which are the benefits of the blockchain, and how you can use it in your businesses. Because, as I said, it's very complicated, so I know we need to explain you better, we need to educate people, we need to go into universities, talk with kids, explain why blockchain is useful, and I'm sure they will come up with new use cases as well.
Right, so a long way to go, but this is the first great step, so hopefully we'll be able to do more and better stuff. So on that note, the next one is for you, Ahmed and Salman. From an innovation application perspective, What are some of the use cases that you see for supply chain and media in Pakistan? What are the challenges that you think we will face, and how do we overcome them?
So thank you for asking that question. Very good question. Blockchain right now is at its very nascent stages. It's just been about a decade or so in the marketplace. While it's been in the marketplace, it's struggling to find its use cases, right? The primary use case right now is cryptocurrency, and people don't understand or see the other use cases that are in place today, especially around supply chain. For instance, there's a company in Pakistan that has an MNC in Pakistan that did all the way from supply chain management from the farm to the table, right? To ensure that the milk, whether it's milk, whether it's cheese, whether it's dairy products coming from the farm to the table, how long it's been since its production, and has it been stored properly, has it been cooled properly, has it been has it been through contaminated places, right? So this is tracking all the way from the farm to the table and ensuring there's transparency in that. What it also does is allows you for forensic evidence collection in case something goes wrong. If you have a bad batch, you understand that, hey, the contaminated people, the people who, the contaminated batch has been consumed by so many people as well. This is also really important for the pharmaceutical industry, where it can be used to track all the way from the raw materials, from sourcing, how it's transported, where it's transported through, has it been through places that it shouldn't be, and has arrived in a certain destination. How has it been stored? Has it been stored within the regulated temperatures or environmental conditions? While it's being produced, has it been, has it gone through certain stages? And then the QC, who did the QC, right? And all this stuff that's while it's logged on the blockchain can be traced and tracked back in case of forensic needs as well, right? So it's really important for us to be able to define how we are going to be using blockchain. Is it permission? Is it going to be a public ledger or a private ledger? Who is authorized to what's this called? Enter data into it, right? Having verified signatures, having identity management into it as well. Now, once we understand how we can use it, we can create a whole set of products and tools and services around it, right? But I think some of the challenges that we have today is not understanding what blockchain can do for us. What is blockchain capable of, and where do we use blockchain, right? It's really important to understand where do we use blockchain, right? So that we're not wasting energy and resources trying to store stuff that should not be stored. Yeah. So I think some of the challenges that we have is not understanding what the potential is and not understanding what it can do for us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, very well said, Ahmed. See, when we talk about the innovation and the use cases, it always starts with the current state of affairs to the future state of affairs, or the desired state of affairs. One of the common, I would say, factors across the growing economies globally are very similarly prevailing in Pakistan as well. I see the opportunities, the biggest opportunities in economies like Pakistan, especially at this stage, how we can improve the collaboration among the different entities and resources, because as you can see, when you're growing, one of the things that comes up is how reliable your systems are. And in order for me to collaborate with Ahmed, I need to make sure that I am collaborating with the right parameters with it. Yeah. I need to understand, his strengths and my weaknesses, where we both stand. So I believe in all sectors, the opportunities are just available as long as you're clear why you are doing it. So it's not about the implementation of technology only. What is the impact that you're looking for when you're looking for innovative solutions? So I would say collaboration is the area that all of us has to start exploring. The second thing is the reliability, as I just mentioned. In order for Pakistan to take the real advantage, we really have to work with the weakest link in the society. The society has so much potential, the country has so much potential, but why every time we face different sort of troubles and challenges? The reason is we are not working with the weakest link in the society. The layer that is not educated enough, I'm talking about human capital, the layer that is the part of the society that is not technologically savvy, and most of them do not even have basic access to the services, that every one of us has to work on that layer first in order to go to any sort of innovation, right? And so from my point of view, again, coming from travel is my focus right now. I would say, you know, the transparency is one of the main area. People cannot trust anything, and so much resources are consumed, and we waste those resources on daily basis. Who to trust and who not to trust. So any national level system that can validate that information for me, I think as a businessman, as an investor, as global entrepreneur, that would be open up a lot of, you know, avenues for all of us. I think that's where I see it.
Absolutely. So I think that it's a very clear message is that one needs to be very aware of the kind of impact that you're looking to create and what the outcome needs to be, right? And I think for that awareness is very important. So, so leading on that to you, Greg, what role do you think media has a role in all of this, number one, and in the development of blockchain? And number two, what is it that you think journalists should be doing for better promotion and for better understanding of blockchain?
Sure. Well, maybe to set us up, I'll just say a few words to maybe illustrate what the problem that the media landscape is facing in this sphere. I think there's a tendency in the media, but also, you know, among the uninformed public, to treat, you know, blockchain and all blockchain-based products as one and the same, when of course everybody in this room will know that, you know, they are vastly different, and, you know, they can be quite different in very technical ways, and these differences can equate to quite huge differences in terms of how viable these products are in terms of, you know, not just their utility, but also their viability in terms of, you know, regulations and compliance. I think where this is a bit of a problem is that, you know, there are a growing number of dedicated blockchain journalists who really have their head around this topic, and, you know, one of them's emceeing this event. But I think that, you know, we still need more. And we need journalists who do understand the technical aspects of blockchain so that they can explain it to their readership. And I think to the extent that journalists who are covering this space don't quite understand the technical aspects, I think what happens is when journalists don't understand something, the coverage tends to, unintentionally or not, skew negatively, which I think is a real shame, because I think we lose out on that, because there are many products out there that, you know, not just make, you know, compliance and legitimacy, you know, a target, but their whole mission. And you would have heard from some of them today, especially the BSV blockchain. But, you know, I don't mean to imply that any of this is new to journalists, obviously. I mean, journalists are used to getting their head around unfamiliar topics, you know, with limited time. But I do think in the case of blockchain and blockchain-based products, you know, because the excitement around them is so high and so visceral, while at the same time the information that is often out there about these products is, you know, it's not like, for example, a stock listing where, you know, disclosure rules mean that there's always a lot of, you know, verified information out there that a journalist can go to back up, you know, a story that they might be running. That just doesn't exist in blockchain. So I think it's just something that you know, journalists really need to be aware of. I think they need to be aware that perhaps maybe in this space they have an even greater responsibility to their readership than they might otherwise have in other industries, because, as, you know, my fellow panelists said, this is an emerging industry. And I think, you know, the media coverage, while it's obviously not going to be fatal to any technological, you know, endeavor or project, I think it really can be a barrier when, you know, the coverage of what we've all been talking about today isn't up to scratch.
Absolutely. So to conclude, I have a two-part question for each of you. Number one, how are you approaching the subject of blockchain education and tooling? And then number two, if we were to talk about implementation and like the starting points, the first steps, what would you say we need, Pakistan needs, in terms of the mindset, the kind of policies, digital literacy awareness? So what do you think would be the starting points to you for that?
Yeah, okay, I can go first. Definitely there's been, unfortunately, a lot of misinformation around blockchain and cryptocurrency and the whole space. So we've been doing a lot of work around education and to try and target a lot of the misinformation there. And so Alessio is definitely better suited than me to discuss the educational part, which he can get into, but I'll discuss the tooling a little bit. So I've been working on blockchain infrastructure, focusing on blockchain infrastructure for the past 2 years, and blockchain is pretty much infrastructure itself. We've been doing a lot of work around the tooling and the infrastructure to make it very easy to use a lot of the tools and take advantage of the blockchain without having to deal with a lot of the complexities. So it's never been easier to get started and try to tackle a lot of the problems and take advantage of the blockchain than today. We've been pushing out a lot of open source software, a lot of APIs, a lot of tools that you can use and get started really quickly. And it's a lot better right now. A few years ago, if you wanted to try and get into the space and do something, you'd have to get involved in a lot of unnecessary complexities, and most people don't need to. So we want to make it as seamless as all of the applications that you use today, and we're getting really close to that. So people they know how to send a message using WhatsApp from one person to one person. All they know is the message just arrives to the person. They don't need to know all of the layers under the hood, how the message gets sent over the wire and all of that stuff. So we're at a really, really great point, and it's a huge opportunity to take advantage of all of these tools that we've spent quite a lot of time pushing out there. And so a lot of it is open source, so it's really easy to contribute and get involved. So if anyone is interested in getting involved, please come reach out to me after the panel. I'd love to discuss that a lot more. Thank you.
So like Judd mentioned, we live in exciting times. We live in a time when evolution's happening every day, right? And if we don't adopt it, we lose, right? A few minutes ago, Mr. Nguyen pointed out, asked about NFTs and the space around metaverse and stuff, right? If we don't adopt it, right, somebody else will, right? And we're going to be forced into it, whether we like it or not. So I think one of the most important things to happen right now is for training, right? For people to understand what is blockchain, how can it be used today. If we don't understand these concepts, how are we going to understand NFTs? NFTs are going to be a real thing pretty soon, right? Digital art, and not just digital art, your, what's this called, house records, your real estate records, your driver's license, your medical records could be part of an NFT. You might be buying NFT as art, right? Like Mr. Nguyen asked Senator Atiq, would you buy NFTs? And he goes, well, my kid does. Well, why aren't we, right? And if we don't understand how these things are and what they are, we can never get there. Or we will rely on somebody else to get there. And, why? We should be self-sufficient. And to get to that stage, we have to educate ourselves. We have to continuously learn. And I think the most important thing is to be able to embrace it, to learn. And what I do right now is I evangelize blockchain, artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity. These are three important things in today's world that everybody needs to have at least a basic concept around. Otherwise, the NFTs that we purchase, if we don't secure them properly, somebody else might have it in their hands very fast, right? So I think it's really important for us to learn. Even if whether it's online or whether it's through somebody or be in forums where they're informed. That's my advice to everybody, is to learn how it can be used.
I think it's a very basic question in terms of the type of people that you have and the leadership that you have in place. I believe where we are, we just need to keep taking the baby steps and just keep moving forward. Of course, these technologies are getting to its own maturity and the developments are happening. So instead of just going and having a rush to implementations and then all those expensive moves, I think just to keep getting better every second day, I think that's the right approach for a country like Pakistan with limited resources. I think we are on the right track as a nation, as a country. We have seen in the last 2-3 years a lot of transformations, and many can be made more. So I think just keep moving forward. That's where the direction is.
So in terms of education, I think one of my tasks as a researcher at Enchain is to reach out to universities and try to connect with them, to academics, to professors, and try to join forces to work together, because I can bring some industrial knowledge, I can bring the next interesting topics in the field, I can have data, and universities and general education have a lot of smart people very interested in working this kind of stuff. So my job is to reach out to them and try to join forces, work together. For example, as an example, I am an industrial fellow at the University of Bath. So I try to reach out to them regularly, and we discuss the problem of the blockchain, how can we solve them together. So we have very great mathematicians that can help us solve problems like network theory, this kind of stuff. And so it's very important to have this connection between education and industry. And then, as Jed said, we need to collaborate to create communities, have open source software that we can develop together and build knowledge. Jed already discussed that, so maybe let me say why this is useful and very relevant for academia and education in general. My job is to read academic papers and write academic papers and share my knowledge with the academic community. And one of the hardest parts is to understand the data, make sure the data is valid, validate the work of other people. It takes a lot of time, but if we have access to trusted data through the blockchain, for example, Jimmy was mentioning this morning, healthcare data. We can have a lot of users providing data to the research institutes, and so we can have provably collected data with timestamps, age of the person that recorded those data, health situation, and this data is very valuable, and being able in a research to prove this information makes the research much more interesting and much more easy to understand and to trust for other researchers. And as a researcher, when I write something, it's always hard to show my sources, because sometimes we have private databases, they are confidential, so having access to a public ledger and being able to prove to other researchers that my data are true, are genuine, and also we share the model that I use. We said that we can do computation or proof of computation on chain, and this is very useful to prove our research and improve the state of the art without needs for other researchers to verify it in a complicated way.
Our delegation had the privilege of meeting the president of Pakistan on Monday, and His Excellency made a really, what I thought was a great case for what he called leveling up the human resources of Pakistan to prepare for the fourth industrial revolution, meaning developments like blockchain. And I really like that, because that wording, I think, implies kind of a broad applicability. Not just, obviously it applies to Pakistan, but I think it applies broadly to the entire world. But it also doesn't just apply to leveling up, resource in terms of blockchain developers. I think it applies to all facets of the blockchain ecosystem, and that does mean media. So I think, journalists should, as I said before, shift their mindset a little bit and recognize the role that they might have in at least shaping some of the conversation. But also I think what we might see is more journalists coming from technical backgrounds, and kind of to build on what Jad said about how content is created and monetized is changing. I think that really will open up the door for not just traditional avenues towards journalism, producing our journalists, but maybe people from different technical backgrounds being able to create great content and also return the value from it. So as I said, I think that will just improve all of our media diets.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for all the enlightening insights, and thank you everyone for listening. Have a great evening. Thank you.
Thanks.